So on to our next speaker. She is best known for being the original sponsor and advocate for girls and women with her Fairness in Women's Sports Act. Obviously, I can't see well enough without these. This legislation is designed to protect opportunities for girls and women in sports, exactly as Title IX was designed to do. She has had a unique opportunity of being invited to testify in many of the state legislatures where this legislation has been brought forward. For her efforts, she has received national recognition, including the National Legislator of the Year in 2021, given by Alliance Defending Freedom. This next one's interesting. I love this. It's A-hole of the Year, 2021, along with Tucker Carlson, so you're in good company. And that was given by Outsports, a pro-LGBT magazine. I think that's a pretty good honor right there. She was also named Idaho's State Republican Legislator of the Year in 2021. She was born and raised in Idaho Falls, graduating from Idaho Falls High School. She then attended North Idaho Junior College and also attended Idaho State University on a basketball scholarship. And at North Idaho Junior College, she was a member of the first team to go to the NJCAA championships in Mississippi. The love of the game has enabled her to embark on a 15-year college coaching career that provided many rich and unique experiences. Her coaching career included stops at 4 outstanding universities, 3 as an assistant coach, including the University of California, Santa Barbara, Brigham Young University in Provo, Utah, Washington State University, and in case you don't know where that is, that's in the communist state to our west. And finally, Cal State Fullerton, where she served as the head women's basketball coach. She is currently employed at Apple Athletic Club as a manager of youth programming. She's a small business owner of Coach E's Camps and Clinics, where she runs a highly successful travel basketball program for boys, conducts hoops camps and clinics for all ages, gives private lessons, and helps kids with collegiate recruiting opportunities. Girls back at those back tables, you might want to know this woman. She is also a motivational speaker. And in her spare time, she is currently serving in her 3rd term as an Idaho State Representative for District 33A, which is located in Idaho Falls. She sits on the House Education Committee, the Judiciary and Rules Committee. She chairs the Local Government Committee and also sits on the Broadband Advisory Board. And if that wasn't enough, she also served on the Idaho Falls City Council for 4 years from 2014 to 2018. Please give a warm round of applause to Idaho State Representative Barbara D. Ehardt.
Oh, man, come on, Kootenai County. Give it a, let's go. Yes. We are not in church. We can get excited about things that mean a lot to us, and that's what we're going to do this evening. Thank you so much for being here. I think I have the wrong idea. I'm listening to how much money you're raising, and I'm saying, I've been tagged as the #1 target of the Democrats in the upcoming election. I think you all ought to pull out your phones, www.barbieheart.com, and let's start the bidding. We can go to $1,000, yes. Oh, I appreciate that. Oh, I am here because I've had the unique opportunity, which I'll get to in just a moment, to speak at quite a few events with Riley. But I thought I'd just give you a little bit of background on what got us to this point. However, I got to say something first, given that I am a graduate of North Idaho Community College. As I say, where I played basketball, go Cardinals. Now, some of you were in Idaho Falls recently. We had Sarah Palin there. And so I got there a little bit late, and I went to the back where she was waiting to go on stage because I had to go talk to her. And I said, Sarah, hey, I wanted to come and kind of reintroduce myself. And she goes, oh, okay. She's just a little thing. And I said, we went to school together. And she goes, oh, you went to the University of Idaho? No. North Idaho Community College. She goes, oh, because she went there 1 year. And I said, remember how you tried out for the basketball team? She said, yeah, and how you didn't make it? I said that. People are like, you said that too? I said, yeah. I said, but Sarah, it worked out. You became the governor, and I went on to coach women's basketball for 15 years. It all worked out. So, but I will say this, one thing about ranked choice voting. Ranked choice voting is voting until the winner loses. We've got to stop it. We've got to stop it. Yeah. So, let's start with where we are right now with the Fairness in Women's Sports Act. As you know, recently the Ninth Circuit finally had a decision. And the Ninth Circuit decided to keep things as they were, that they were not going to change the injunction, and that boys can compete with girls in the state of Idaho. Now, the ACLU jumped all over that because the ACLU thought that was a great big victory and, wanted to kind of put the day, like, we put out a press release right after that. The ACLU didn't win. They didn't win anything. We knew at the Ninth Circuit, the most overturned court of appeals in the nation, we knew what they were going to do. What I was glad about is the federal district court had sat on that legislation forever. Then the Ninth Circuit was sitting. I didn't think we were going to get it out, but guess what? We now have it out. It's going to an in-bank where we're appealing to the Ninth Circuit as a whole. And then I am telling you, this piece of legislation, what I said from day one in 2020, it is headed to the Supreme Court of the United States. But first things first, let me tell you a little about this legislation. In 2018, I had just served one term. I'd been appointed. And we're in the process now of running. And it was actually this time of year. It was a Sunday evening. And I'd been posting about what was happening in Connecticut with our Connecticut girls. And I'm walking on a Sunday evening in deep contemplation. And true story. And you'll see how we tie this in the end, especially with Riley. I was in deep contemplation. And I was thinking, praying, speaking with my Heavenly Father, and just thinking, this is not right. Why doesn't someone do something about this? And I'm telling you, one of the true spiritual moments I've had, it came very clearly to me. Barbara, you need to do something about this. You are a legislator. You spent 15 years coaching Division I basketball. You were a Division I athlete. You need to do something about that. And that, yeah. And that was in 2018. Keep in mind, this legislation didn't come forward until 2020 because it was not easy. I contacted like 12 to 15 pro-family groups and trying to find a path forward. We had blocks in the Idaho High School Activities Association trying to find a path forward there until we found, I happened to get in touch with Alliance Defending Freedom. They have been amazing. They have been behind so much that has happened in these states. And they helped find a path forward with, we've had a concussion scenario where the legislature inserted itself. So we found that path forward. But we kept going. Finally, Alliance Defending Freedom said they'd help me. They helped as we crafted that legislation, because I went to our LSO 4 times asking them to help write legislation. Every single time they gave it out for the boys. I'm like, no, they're boys. They're boys. They don't get that opportunity to take our spots. You see, one thing, I don't know how many of you in this room experienced what I experienced, but when I was growing up in the 70s, people would ask me, Barbie, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I would literally tell them that I wanted to play sports, and I promise you I was told, that's not what girls do. But in 1972, as an 8-year-old, unbeknownst to me, Title IX was passed. It literally changed my life. Literally changed my life. And no doubt changed many of your lives. And now that's being turned on its head. And so as we went forward, as we brought that legislation forward, by the way, I announced it in 2019 when we were at the Supreme Court in D.C. with Doreen Denny here of Concerned Women for America. Keep in mind, she just moved back to Coeur d'Alene. You guys need to know who she is. She's awesome. Yes, truly, truly. They have been with us every step of the way. And so as we brought that legislation forward, Riley has had far more disturbing tales. But I'm telling you, I didn't know what was about to happen. As the hearings were being held, when they ended the first one, I had the police came out and surrounded me. I had people jumping out over the pass trying to get to me, trying to grab me, yelling that, death threats, saying I had blood on my hands. I had to have police escorts. I had to have that a couple times when I was at the Capitol. I was called off the House floor one time by the Idaho State Police. They called me off to inform me that their intel had just come that I was being followed. And I'm like, followed? You mean like home? Yeah. Then we start finding things that start being posted. I would be working out at the YMCA. One time I'm working out, I'm watching a basketball game, and they had people there, they're taking pictures behind me. Oh, look, she's out, she's watching basketball. What do you think I'm going to do? I'm watching basketball, I'm working out. I mean, that's disturbing. That's a little bit scary. And so, but we kept pushing forward with that legislation. Then Nike sends Chris Mosier, who was a girl that became a guy, to have a big rally at the Capitol, which they did. The Capitol was even shut down in the evening. But earlier that day, when I'm sitting in the House Education Committee, I see the ACLU walking. I'm like, why are they walking in? There is nothing controversial on the docket today. And then I see this guy walk in, and I remember looking. I truly was not putting two and two together at that point. And I remember thinking, I wonder if that's a biological girl. Anyway, as the meeting ended, beeline right up to me. And the ACLU gal says, Representative Ehardt, can we talk to you? And I'm like, well, and this is a true story. I'm like, actually, the New York Times is about to call before we get on. Well, this won't take long. I want you to meet Chris Mosier. Well, there's Chris Mosier with USA, whatever, biathlete, the only gal to a guy that actually is more of just a pretend because Chris doesn't win anything. So, that's true. But Chris wears that uniform, so I'm like, okay, I guess we can go to my office. So we're walking down the hall, and I am not happy about this, and I'm thinking to my mind, I'm just about to turn and tell Chris this. Now, keep in mind, all 4 universities where I coached, we are all sponsored by Nike, all 4 times. And it turns out Chris Mosier, as a girl, not only played basketball, but had the opportunity to play collegiately. So I'm about to turn to Chris and say, Chris, we have a lot of things in common. We both played basketball, both sponsored by Nike, and we're both biological women. And just before I could say that, the secretary literally was at the top of the stairs and said, Representative Ehardt, the New York Times is on the phone. I'm like, so I left. I didn't get that mean. Anyway, it's been quite a journey. And so we started out in 2020 with just one state, Idaho. And I'm telling you, as that went to the governor's desk and we adjourned, that gave him 10 days. The entire nation descended on Idaho. All the major corporations, all the woke people, money was being raised nationally to get Governor Little to not sign that legislation. Threats were being issued, and basically moral bankrupt character people were out there saying what they're going to do to Idaho. And I'm telling you, people, we have to give credit where credit is due. Governor Little signed that legislation. The next year, in 2021, we had 7 more states. Now 8 states had signed. And in 2022, we made it all the way up to 18. And it was in 2022 and January 23rd where I first had the opportunity to meet Riley as we were celebrating the 50th anniversary of Title IX. It was a phenomenal event. It was awesome. But what Riley didn't know, and what was so impressive to me, is earlier that year during session, I was flown out to the NCAA Swimming Championships of March of 2022. We went out there to protest and have a press conference that I was asked to speak at. ESPN, they were all there. And we watched those young women walk in and out, some with their parents, trying to talk to them. You know, Beth Stelzer was there with her flag that said, woman, adult human female. That same sign hangs in my office. I know what a woman is. Do you know what a woman is? Yeah. But getting back to my original point, when I talked about Heavenly Father literally put this in my path, no doubt. Spoke to me, laid things out. It was so hard, and it finally came into place. To see when we were out at the swimming championships, I watched Leah swim. I watched Leah win. And then, there's a lot of things we could do in talking about Riley. You probably heard half of them. What's his name? Riley, ESPN wannabe, used to be. Keith Olbermann. Man, he has a way of open mouth inserting foot, and when you probably all now know about Riley's accomplishments when he said she wasn't a very good swimmer. Riley, that had to be the best video. Oh, thank you, Keith. And she just, all those accomplishments just rattles them off. But that's not even it, friends. See, to step into this arena, we were doing with our coalition, Alliance Defending Freedom, Family Policy, Concerned Women, radical feminists with Wolf, no doubt leaving people off, Heritage Foundation. We'd been battling as best we could, but we lacked something. We lacked something that only the Lord could give us, honestly. We lacked somebody to take up the mantle, actually an athlete. We had athletes sign on. We had 2 brave gals from Idaho State, tracksters, that had to run against June Eastwood. But Riley stepped up and on her own started questioning, what the freak is going on? This isn't right. This isn't right. Yes. And I am telling you, it was at that moment that things began to change. I knew from the time we first brought the legislation that this transcended Republican, Democrat, unless it was legislation, then it gets all screwy. Republican, Democrat, black, white, rich, poor, it doesn't matter, because the parents want their daughters to have opportunities. They don't want boys to take it away. We're all in that. And you know what? This polls at 70% or higher. This particular issue, I'll do this. Give myself one pat on the back. This issue nationally, whether it's federally or state, polls at one of the top 2 or 3 issues that's of concern to parents. How's that for an issue to have Riley Gaines take up? So when Riley decided to get involved, to speak up, and I'm sure it was scary, it has been amazing to see the Lord take somebody who is actually pretty polished. She changed her whole course of direction. She wasn't planning to do this. But when you do what the Lord asks, when you're willing to step through, and when you're willing to put yourself on the line, Heavenly Father can do amazing things. And I'll tell you this, not a single one of us in here, as hard as we want to fight to change things, keep our Constitution strong, keep our traditional family values, none of it's going to happen without the Lord's help.